In this video, we'll be looking at murders, disappearances, and other unsolved mysteries from Japan. As you will find out, some of them are quite disturbing within Japan-level terror. All of these mysteries have remained unsolved for decades, and most likely will remain that way forever. We'll feature cases ranging from mass poisonings and vanishings to a creepy Japanese doll. Now before we begin, if you're like us here at Top 5s, you've probably got a knack for late night research and investigating the far reaches of the internet. Whether it's deep dives into the paranormal, or binging the newest horror series on your favourite streaming service, you've dedicated a good amount of time to the World Wide Web. But what if we told you that there was a safer way to do so, including an opportunity to fill your curiosity from any location in the world without breaking a sweat? With Surfshark VPN, these incredible possibilities are delivered at lightning speeds in simple terms, fulfilling all your internet sleuthing needs. One of Surfshark's greatest attributes is its ability to connect you with servers outside of your home base. Whether it be the United States, the United Kingdom, or even Japan, surf the web from around the world. This means your favourite conspiracy documentaries and creepy television programs that are only available in certain countries are now available on your own streaming service accounts like Netflix or Hulu. Just switch servers on the VPN to a different server from around the globe, and entirely new libraries will be at your viewing disposal, on an unlimited number of devices as well, feeding your imagination like never before. The best part is these perks come with added security as well. If you're worried about protecting your data and information, Surfshark VPN uses uncrackable encryption to secure your data, doesn't collect or sell your browser history, and automatically blocks over 1 million known shadowy websites and other phishing threats. It may sound like just another Top 5's conspiracy too good to be true, but we assure you it's anything but. For a limited time, use our code TOP5s upon checkout to unlock a spine-chilling 83% discount, along with 3 months free and a 30-day money-back guarantee, easily the best price on the VPN market. So what's you waiting for? Sit back, hit those lights, and evolve the way you web sleuth with Surfshark VPN. And now with those lights already off, let's take a dive into these 5 disturbing Japanese mysteries. The vending machine murders. In 1985, the Japanese company Otsuka Pharmaceutical was noticing a slump in sales of its health tonic drink, known as W.A.R.N.I.N.G. To boost sales, they launched a campaign offering a free bottle of W.A.R.N.I.N.G when purchasing a vending machine drink. As was typical with the Japanese, many of the unwanted free bottles would either remain in the slots or be placed on top of the vending machines for someone else to enjoy. Under normal circumstances, this would just be seen as a kind gesture. However, to a cruel, psychopathic killer, it presented the perfect opportunity to indiscriminately kill by poisoning. On April 30th, 1985, a 45-year-old truck driver from Fukuyama, Hiroshima, went to purchase a drink from a vending machine in the city when he spotted a bottle of W.A.R.N.I.N.G on top of the machine, so he took that instead and drank it. Soon after, he fell seriously ill and displayed symptoms of severe poisoning and internal chemical burns. The medical staff could not do anything for him other than confirm the exact poison that was killing him. It was paraquat, a deadly chemical often used in weed killers that is banned in several countries due to its adverse effects on humans and animals, although in Japan it is readily available and is often used to commit suicide. Paraquat is so toxic that if it just touches human skin, it will cause blisters and quickly sinks deeper, burning blood vessel walls. If ingested, it is even more lethal and burns holes in the esophagus, inflames tissue around major blood vessels, and causes irreversible damage to internal organs. As little as a teaspoon of it nearly always results in death. A few weeks after drinking the poison, the Fukuyama man died an agonizing death, and a police investigation was launched. Then on September 11th, a 52-year-old man from Osaka suffered the same fate after drinking a free beverage from a vending machine. He died 3 days later. By the end of September, there were a further 3 deaths, all as a result of drinking W.A.R.N.I.N.G. 4 more people died in October and 2 in November, All took free bottles, some from the top of the vending machine, but most from the depositing slot. A 17-year-old girl from Saitama, who died on November 24th, was the last victim. After that, the killings stopped as inexplicably as they started. The police worked hard to bring the person or persons responsible to justice, but they hit a brick wall. The poisoner was clever. They chose vending machines in obscure places that had no CCTV and few witnesses, and left no DNA traces. The 12 victims were killed indiscriminately in different locations with no connection between them, entirely at random. In fact, it looks like the randomness of the deaths was part of a sick game the murderer played, like a twisted version of Russian roulette. The only thing connecting the victims was that except for the last one, they were all male. With no evidence and no significant leads, the case went cold, and after 25 years it passed the statute of limitation, a law that has since changed. There is now no chance of getting justice for the 12 innocent people who died horrific deaths from what could well have been a sick prank. The W.A.R.N.I.N.G incident and the monster with 21 faces. You may have heard of Pocky, the chocolate-coated biscuit sticks in various flavours that originated in Japan that are now sold around the world. But what you might not be aware of is that the company that makes them, Asahi Glico, was once embroiled in an extortion and kidnapping case that cost them millions. At around 9 PM on March 18, 1984, Asahi Glico president, Katsushia Asahi, was bathing his 2 young children when 2 masked men armed with a pistol and rifle entered his home. The intruders had stolen a key to his home from the next door neighbour, who happened to be Katsushia's 70-year-old mother Yoshi. After entering Katsushia's home, the men tied up his 35-year-old wife and his eldest daughter. Immediately his daughter offered the men money, but it seemed that that was not their motive, and one of them responded by saying, "Be quiet, money is irrelevant." After cutting the telephone lines, the 2 men located Katsushia in the bathroom, and after he put up a fight, they abducted him naked from his home and took him to a warehouse in Osaka. The next morning, they called the director of Asahi Glico and issued a ransom demand for 1 billion yen, about $4.2 million, and 100 kilograms in gold bullion. The director immediately informed the police. However, things didn't go to plan when on the 21st of March, Asahi managed to escape from the warehouse and raised the alarm. Thankfully he was unharmed, but was unable to provide any information about his kidnappers, as they placed a bag over his head the entire time. But the extortion attempts against Glico did not end there. On April the 10th, vehicles in the parking lot of the company's headquarters were set on fire. Then on April 16th, a plastic container containing hydrochloric acid and a threatening letter to Glico were found in Ibaraki, demanding a one-off payment to end the harassment. Soon after, the perpetrators started sending a series of taunting letters to Glico, the media and the police. The letters were signed off with the name, the monster with 21 faces, inspired from the villain of Edogawa Rampo's detective novels. Some of the letters claimed to have laced Glico candies with a potassium cyanide soda. Glico took the threat seriously and pulled its products off the shelves of shops and supermarkets. The move cost the company more than $21 million and resulted in 450 workers losing their jobs. But this wasn't the end of the incident. The monster threatened to place the tampered products back in stores, and following the threats, a man wearing a Yomiuri Giants baseball cap was caught on CCTV placing Glico chocolate on a store shelf. The footage was made public, but the letters kept coming. One of the letters received by the media and the police read, Still, the police were no closer to catching the culprits, and after 3 months of trying, a letter was sent that read, and the company received no further correspondence from the monster with 21 faces. However, they then turned their extortion campaign to other food companies using much the same tactics. One of those companies was Madurai Ham, who, unlike Glico, agreed to pay the 50 million yen the monster was asking for to stop the harassment. A plan was agreed for Moradai employee to throw the ransom money onto a local train heading towards Kyoto when a white flag was displayed out of the train window. Instead of a Moradai employee, the police sent an undercover officer instead. But whilst travelling on the train to the drop-off point, the officer spotted a suspicious-looking man watching him. The man was described as a large, well-built man wearing sunglasses, his hair cut short and permed, with eyes like those of a fox. When the officer reached the drop-off point, the white flag was not displayed, so he followed the suspicious man from train to train. When he disembarked at Takatsuki Station, the fox-eyed man boarded a Kyoto-bound train and managed to escape the officers who were tailing him. But worse was to come. The monster sent a letter to the media addressing it to the mothers across Japan, threatening to lace Moringa confectionery products with cyanide. The letter caused mass panic in Japan, and this was worsened when products in shops were found with notes attached to them warning that they were poisoned with cyanide, and when tests came back, they confirmed some of the products were in fact poisoned. Moringa now seemed to be the focus of the monster's attention, and on November 1st, 1984, a letter arrived at the Tokyo home of the company's vice president. Morinaga responded to the criminals by placing the missing persons advertisement in the local newspaper morning edition. They were also forced to remove all their products from sale and reduce their production by 90%. But the monster wasn't done. Next he started harassing the House Foods Corporation, and after weeks of threat, with the help of the police, the company agreed to pay the 100 million yen to the monster. This is when investigators took a second look at the fox-eyed man, but again things did not go to plan. En route to the drop-off point, investigators spotted the fox-eyed man in a station wagon. They followed him as he headed to the drop-off point, where they had been instructed to drop the money in a can under a white piece of cloth. When they reached the drop point, the white cloth was there, but the can was missing. The stolen station wagon was later found abandoned. Inside the car was a radio receiver that had been eavesdropping on radio communications between the police officers involved in the drop-off. They also recovered a vacuum cleaner, although no fingerprint evidence could be retrieved from it or the car. Following the blackmail campaign, police released a facial composite of the fox-eyed man to the public. Quickly, suspicion fell on a man called Manabu Miyazaki. But despite him bearing a striking resemblance to the fox-eyed man, police checked his alibis and cleared him of any wrongdoing. Miyazaki later wrote a book about his experiences of being the #1 suspect in the case. Although no one was poisoned as a result of the 21 Monsters extortion campaign, the perpetrators were responsible for one death. Shiga Prefecture Police Superintendent Yamamoto, who was in charge of the investigation, could take no more, and killed himself in the most awful way by setting fire to himself. This seemed to prick the conscience of the monster, and 5 days later on August 12, 1985, the monster with 21 faces sent its last message to the media. Following this message, the monster with 21 faces was never heard from again. Yamagami family disappearance. On June 4, 2001, 52-year-old Junko Yamagami was scheduled to take a business trip to Dalian, China, for the travel company she worked for. Before leaving, she was due to attend a meeting at her office, but by noon that day, Junko hadn't shown for her meeting or her flight, and her colleagues began to get worried. They checked her house where she lived with her husband and mother-in-law, but nobody appeared to be home. The family dog and her husband's car was also missing. Soon after, Yamagami's daughter, a 26-year-old schoolteacher named Chi, was also reported missing. Chi lived alone in an apartment in a nearby city, but it was known she had visited her parents the night before. A friend of hers confirmed that at 9:30 p.m, Chi picked up some makeup from a colleague and then headed for her parents' home in the small mountain town of Serra. The Yamagami's neighbours also confirmed they heard a car door close at around 10:50 p.m. What they heard was either from Chi's car or it was the sound of Yamagami's leaving. The family's newspaper delivery man reported that the car was missing when he came around 4 or 5 a.m. the next day. Authorities discover the Yamagami's front door was locked, but the back door was open. Nothing in the house appeared to be disturbed. The kitchen light was left on, all of their beds were made, and breakfast had been prepared. However, strangely, the Yamagami's pajamas were missing, and while their shoes had been left behind, their slippers were gone. Junko's luggage and the 150,000 yen she needed for her trip were also inside the house, as was her husband's pager. It seemed that the Yamagamis suddenly dropped whatever they were doing, took the family dog, and left the house in their pajamas and slippers. But the question was, why? A year into the investigation, the case seemed to be going nowhere. They had established that the Yamagamis had a good reputation and were not involved with shady or dangerous people. The husband, Masahiro, did have some money problems, but nothing serious enough to leave town. Then on September 7, 2002, police recovered a car that was found submerged in a reservoir. The car contained the bodies of the 4 Yamagamis and their dog, although strangely, no cause of death could be determined, and there was no signs of an attack or a struggle. The car was found in a neutral state, and Masahiro's window was down and the whole family was still strapped in their seats. The state of their clothing made it impossible to tell whether they were wearing their pajamas or slippers. Because Masahiro was in the driver's seat, police believed it was a murder-suicide or group suicide, although there seemed to be no evidence to support this, and what would be the reason? There was speculation that Junko was having an affair, and that it really was a suicide of some sort. Another idea is perhaps they were on the run from someone, or somebody forced them to leave. But who jumps in their car in their night clothes late at night and drives off for no apparent reason and ends up dead? 20 years on, the mysterious late-night trip and the deaths of the Yamagami family has never been solved. Subono Spa Incident. The Subono Spa Hotel, located in Uzu, closed in 1982 and was barricaded up and left abandoned. However, because it was reputed to be haunted, it became a magnet for explorers and ghost hunters. It is well known that the Japanese believe in hauntings and ghosts, and youngsters often explore haunted places as a test of courage, or kimodameshi as it's known in Japan. Kimodameshi is usually played in the summer by teenagers. At night, the youngsters visit scary places such as cemeteries, haunted houses, or dark forests to carry out specific missions to test their courage. On the 5th of May 1996, 19-year-old students, Ako and Biko, who lived in Himi City, Toyama Prefecture, told their families they were going to play kimodameshi at the abandoned spa. The 2 girls were classmates at the prefecture high school, and at the time, Ako was a company employee and Biko was a super clerk. At around 9 PM, the girls set off in Biko's Subaru Vivivo car, and en route they stopped to buy batteries for their flashlights. They also stopped off at a nearby park, where they met some friends. At about 10 PM they left the park and headed to the hotel, and witnesses confirmed seeing the girls driving on National Highway No. 8, near the border between Toyama and Name-Rikawa City, just outside of Uzu City. When they reached the city, they again messaged friends and family to let them know their location. But no one knows if they actually made it to the hotel, as the girls and their car disappeared without a trace. Despite appeals and searches for the girls or their car, they have never been found. Many theories have been put forward over the years. Some believe the girls were lovers and ran away together to escape the wrath of their families, although there's not much evidence to support this. Another theory is that the girls were kidnapped by North Korea, a plausible explanation as North Korea has a history of kidnapping Japanese citizens, something that we may talk about in a future video. Others believe they reached the hotel and were taken by the evil spirits that supposedly reside there. However, the most plausible explanation is that the girls ran off the road and are lying at the bottom of a lake somewhere. But where, nobody knows. What's your thoughts? Okiko Doll. Now, we've covered some pretty creepy dolls on this channel, but we think the mystery of Okiko beats them all. In 1918, 17-year-old Akichi Suzuki was touring the Sapporo region of Japan for a maritime exhibition, when he noticed an enticing little doll in a shop window. Thinking it would be perfect for his 2-year-old sister, he used the last of his money to purchase the doll. She was exquisite, standing at around 40 centimeters. She was dressed in a traditional kimono and had raven black hair that was styled in a traditional or kappa cut. Her eyes were a mesmerizing, glistening black color. When Suzuki gave the doll to his little sister, Kiku, she immediately fell in love with her and treated her like a little sister. She even named the doll Okiku, the same as herself. The pair were inseparable, and Okiko played every day with the doll and took it everywhere. The doll never left her side. Then a year later, tragedy struck. Yellow fever had descended on the community, and the little girl succumbed to the disease. Okiko died gasping for air, in pain, and afraid with the doll held firmly in her grasp. She was just 3 years old, and her devastated family wanted her buried with her favourite doll. However, circumstances and governmental oversight meant the doll was never laid to rest with Okiko. Instead, the family kept her on the family's altar, a common practice in certain Japanese households to commemorate the dead. And that is when things started to get strange. The family started to notice that the doll's hair was getting longer. Her once neat, traditional haircut was growing into a mangled mess of ends that reached down past her waist. It was scruffy, different colours, and felt odd. At night, they started to dream of Okiko, and sometimes the doll would appear by their side in the morning. The chilling events intensified and developed into full-blown acts of spiritual infestation. Lights flickered on and off, there were strange noises in the house, and odd voices were heard, especially around key dates like Okiko's birthday and the day of her death. Over time, they were convinced that their daughter's soul lived on within the doll. In 1938, the family relocated to a different neighbourhood. They had by now become accustomed to Okiko, and had even grown fond of their daughter's restless spirit. To them, it was an opportunity to interact with their dead daughter. Because they wanted to keep that bond intact, instead of taking the doll to their new home, the family approached the local temple and asked them to take care of her so she could stay close to Okiko's grave. The priests happily accepted, and over time, they too confirmed the claims the family made about the doll. Significantly, that the hair does indeed grow. They even sent a sample of the hair for scientific analysis, and it was confirmed that the hair was that of a human child. As the years passed, the doll's frame grew and her powers developed, and she started invading the dreams of the priests and those that came to visit her. To this day, her hair continues to grow, and in the latest update, it's claimed that her mouth is slowly opening, and if you look closely, she has baby teeth growing. Okiko doll is located in a private shrine on display in a little wooden box in the Manam-jin temple in the town of Iwamizawa, Hokkaido, Japan, and she is available to visit if you dare. So that's it for this video. We hope you've enjoyed these 5 disturbing, unsolved Japanese mysteries. We'd love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.